So we touched on this a little bit, and I'd like to hear more about it. One of the things that always marvels me about actors is what appears to be their ability to memorize, in some cases, many, 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 many lines. And I'd love to understand what techniques that you use to accomplish that. How can that be applied to presenting without coming off too scripted?
Yeah, I think that, well, first, like in a very technical sense, right? There's neuroscience that says you have to hear something 8 times before you can commit it to memory. So say it out loud. You're it's going to be a lot more difficult to memorize something reading it to yourself in your mind over and over again on a page. You need to be able to hear it out loud so that you're internalizing it mentally, but you're also internalizing it auditorially. But I think in a larger sense is to, and I think this especially applies when you're approaching language that isn't natural to you. So if you're Shakespeare's, your Greeks, your classics, right? You have to know what you're saying. So to look at the performance as a whole, to understand the through line, what's the journey, and I think this especially applies to any presentation you're going to give. Like, what's the through line? So once you know the journey, it's a lot easier to memorize then, because you're putting it in sequence. I have one more thought on this I just thought about, was that so like the cornerstone of my acting training was movement based. And I think to apply that to a performance is that the body, your gestures, and the speech, the words aren't two different things. They aren't separate. So if you can tie body movements in with the words that you're saying, your brain's going to remember that as well. So the more that you can use it all together, the easier it is for your brain to remember.
Excellent.
So my shows are sometimes 85 minutes long, and I'm the only person talking that whole time. So if things go wrong, like, I can't look to anyone else to save me. I mean, I guess I could look to the stage manager to ask for a prompt. And so after these shows, yes, people frequently, the first thing they say is, wow, how did you memorize all of that? And that, quite frankly, is the least of what goes into it. And I think this is directly transferable to presentations as well, because it was the figuring out of what is the story and what beat follows what next beat, what scene, how is this all going to coalesce around that through line that both Donnie and Brian talked about. And when we think about a presentation, if we think about what is the core message, figuring out what that core message is, what is your action step, the subject matter expertise that you're needing to draw on in order to share the evidence that is going to be persuasive and compelling and concise. Once you've done all that, I think the order and you remembering what to say takes care of itself, because you've had to do all that preparation work. So yes, if we just think of these words as disembodied, as Brian is saying, like they're just sort of, I need to like somehow just be blabbing on and it's not hooked into anything, well, that's going to be pretty impossible. It would be like trying to memorize a grocery list. And there's a reason we write down grocery lists, because it's a random hodgepodge word salad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's to really think about what are we wanting to convey and let that carry us through.
Perfect. And as you all know, we provide frameworks that help you to tell that story in a way that's very, very effective and flows naturally.